Hi people, Moino Ravenberg here again as always and as usual. As you can tell, as always and as usual, I'm going to be covering a spirit from the Arbatel grimoire by the name of Betor. I haven't covered Betor yet, so I'm hereby doing this now. A comment on one of my videos this morning, morning time when I woke up, inspired me to do so because it made me realize that I did have data available all the way back to lifetimes ago, 2017. In any case, yeah, let's go. Before I continue, linked in the description of this video, you will find, for people that aren't familiar with the Arbatel Grimoire for whatever reason, a copy of the Arbatel Grimoire as well as um, other languages of said grimoire available. You'll also find a link that leads to a web page on my website where you'll find grimoires in non-English languages, and that includes the Arbatel. So yeah, if you're not unfamiliar with the Arbatel grimoire, with this magical workbook whatsoever out of which the spirit is taken, knock yourself out. So yeah, now let's get down to things. The description from the Arbatel is as follows. Betor governed those things which are ascribed to Jupiter. He soon cometh being called. He that is dignified with his character, he raiseth to very great dignities to cast open treasures. He reconcileth the spirits of the air, that they give true answers. They transport precious stones from place to place, and they make medicines to work miraculously in their efforts. He giveth also familiars of the firmament, and prolongeth life to 700 years, if God will. And then his seal is shown, which is called his character. So yeah, he's attributed to the planet Jupiter, but that's not the case, honestly. I can't put my finger exactly on why they linked him to Jupiter, but in any case, he's not Jupiterian. He corresponds to 10 degrees to the moon. The 10 degrees specifically stands for steadfastness and specialty in business-related endeavors, which is what Betor specializes in, not the things he mentions. I'll go over those things selectively in a second or in a minute. But just remember, he is lunar. You use lunar correspondences classically and or conventionally with Betor, or at most solar correspondences, but lunar is still the norm. So keep that in mind. And that's what he specializes in. Anything business related, you need help with anything, especially when it comes to business and money, finances. Betor is definitely going to be able to help you out, and he'll work in a lunar-like manner. So let me go over the description again, so I can nitpick what's correct and what isn't. Of course, up to a lesser extent, he deals with general lunar affairs, simply improving your quality of life overall. In areas of life, you can think of anything that the moon falls under primarily. Think of real estate, so your house, your residency, things like that. Think of culinary delights, cooking, anything in general, purely in general, that that falls under the moon in terms of attributes and properties and whatnot. So yeah, let me see. Yeah, that's also where, for example, the cast open treasure comes from. Transport precious stones from place to place to make medicines, etc., etc. When this book was compiled, they did see Cancer or either lunar affinity, and that's where this comes from. Okay, classically and conventionally, to be more detailed, herbs and medicines and whatnot comes from Virgo. Okay, those sort of things that are classically attributed to the zodiac sign Virgo, but since the moon deals with all things from the bowels of the earth, so to speak, things of a terrestrial nature, ironically, the moon is generally speaking weak in air, in earth signs, zodiacally, and it is strong in water signs. The moon by default can also be seen as a general go-to element for within this context, within given context. For the aforementioned attributes, so medicines and whatnot. So that's where that comes from. But bear in mind that this is not a specialty. I mean, yeah, sure, he can help you out, but not as a specialty. To give familiars, yes, that's correct. And prolong life to 700 years, yeah, no, really. That's not a specialty. He can do so, but it is nominal / minimal at best. I mean, relatively speaking. But extending lives, that's not what Betor does. as a specialty. Let me see. And yeah, and there is one other thing, one last thing as an attribute. He reconciled the spirits of the air. So yeah, let me elaborate on this. Betor also has a, I want to say slight, but this means slight in between brackets. Betor has a solar affinity as well. And how so is that Betor as an entity wishes that he had more solar affinity. Let's just put it that way. And because solar affinity specifically would give him more insight into how he can improve upon himself. And that's where this whole thing comes from, with reconciling any issues you might have with aerial spirits, or simply improving your workings with aerial spirits, provided that you do so, that you do work with aerial spirits for aforementioned reasons. That's why I also said in the beginning, for people that are paying attention, obviously, which is what you should do, that what I said in the beginning, that you can also use solar correspondences, but it is not recommended. Only within a certain context. You need to use logic here. If your senses tell you to use solar correspondences, or you're a practitioner and you can communicate with Betor, and Betor tells you, you know what, use solar correspondences for this. Let's just say, for example, you were going to do some aerial working pertaining to the element air, and the sun elementally rules over air, so you see the connection. Then yeah, within that context, it's going to be more practical to work with solar attributes, to work on a Sunday when the sun is at its strongest, and so on and so forth, and to use solar attributes, like I said. But conventionally, classically, the moon is best, because he is conventionally lunar. Let me see if there was anything else I was going to add. Yeah, last but not least, that's also where the appearance come from, I could tell. It's like the moon mixed with the sun. When Betor appears, his appearance, and this is true, his true appearance, like conventional appearance, like what he generally looks like just all across the board, is that he appears as a transparent being that that is quite aerial in nature, almost like the wind, essentially. And you could sense that there is also some like lunar in there. There is lunar in there, just plain lunar, for a good deal lunar, if you will, even. Because I've met lunar spirits over the course of my career, just plain over the course of my life, my existence as a whole, that were transparent, but they were more like watery transparent. And with Betor, it's a mix of water and air. And just like the description also says in the Arbatel grimoire, Betor is indeed like, he does indeed come quickly, like really flexible, like boom, immediately, metaphorically in your face. It's not like you have to wait a minute or something. No. He's quite mobile, flexible, and agile. So within in this context, both the swiftness of the moon and the fact that it rules water elementally, as well as air, make for a nice combination in which you get an entity that represents himself as having the attributes of both, appearance-wise, strictly appearance-wise, obviously, within given context. And for the rest, yeah, no, Betor has a nice soothing voice, the voice of, let's just say, a middle-aged, well-spoken man, but the voice has extra strength to it. You can tell that you're like talking to, it's like the nice version of Darth Vader. You're like, Luke, I am your father, but within a nice context, not within an intimidating context. That's the best example I can come up with. Let me see if I missed anything else. No, that is all. Bye bye.